Attention, armchair quarterbacks and shower thought GMs. It's time for this week's episode of SportsBall with Mike Meharry and Alan Mosley.
Did you see that Suns-Mavericks game last night where the Suns were up by 22 and then lost in regulation?
Oh, Jesus, no, I didn't see that.
The NBA's retarded.
Yeah, clearly.
This is the special time of year where every single sports league is in action.
I know. Sports nirvana.
Guys, welcome back for another episode of Sports Ball. I am your host, Alan Mosley, joined as always by Tampa Bay sports superfan, and he won't be cowed into taking that hat off. No, sir, it's Mike Meharry. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm wearing the hat, damn it. 1-3 record notwithstanding.
All right. Well, you know, it's so early in the season. I don't want to hear it from you. That's it.
That's
I don't
what
want
everybody keeps telling me. It's
right.
like, oh, it's only 3 games. Actually, I was complaining in the first game. So I was like, for God's sake, Mike, it's just the first game.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
We're going to start off the show the way we always do with some announcers say.
Constantly spanking him.
Drew Sanders coming in the face of Jaron Hall.
Spend all week watching him on film, and then all of a sudden he's in your lap.
Constantly spanking him. Constantly spanking him.
Swing at him is just wiped him out with a big curveball. Man, the curveball has some serious dig to it right now.
Constantly spanking him.
Sticking that thing in there to his big tight end.
Yeah, get it in there. Get it in there.
Constantly spanking him.
God damn, that hurt.
Sorry about that, folks.
Holding.
Constantly spanking him.
Clapp needs help getting off.
I want you in my belly.
Constantly spanking him.
How about if you get a little taste of dick coming right down your throat? How about if you get a little taste of dick coming right down your throat? Taste of dick coming right down your throat.
Constantly spanking him.
To me, this is not going to be a high-scoring game, Jim.
Wow.
Because these two defenses are going to make you drive the field. The clock's going to run a lot because they're going to be consistently checking it down, running the football. Every once in a while you get a big play. But this is going to be a 24-20 type of game, maybe 30 if somebody goes off. Kansas City, again, as you see right here, Josh took a risk there.
And that's going to do it.
That is over right there.
Constantly spanking him.
The man knows, Mike Meharry. I don't care how much you hate Tony Romo. The man just knows.
Oh, mercy. Whew, there's some. This is like getting R-rated, announcers say.
Chris Collinsworth, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Collinsworth on national television said, "How do you like some dick coming right down your throat?"
Yes, he did.
I don't. When I edit these clips, they're like this. This is not false editing. I'm just taking it straight from television.
Yeah, that's awesome. Speaking of taking it straight or something, you know, sports is hard, but sometimes you look at stuff and it's like, I could do that. I got a couple for you. Did you see this punt in the Mississippi State UK game?
Whoa!
It was a boomer. The official distance on that punt was 4 yards. Alan, I can punt the ball 4 yards.
Does the person in the crowd get to keep that ball?
I don't know. I guess. I don't know whether they can go take it from them. Okay, so we got another one here. This is the best flop ever.
Shield your eyes, folks. You're about to see violence.
This is a lot of violence right here. So you'll see the little altercation. First, we have a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll go back and we'll see what the penalty was all about here.
Got some extracurriculars, as they like to say.
Yes. A little got a little heated here at the end of the game. Okay, you see a little punch, and he hit him in the face, and then no!
He
Alan,
can't go on.
I could fall down like that. I honestly, part of me thinks he was like mocking him. You know, it's like, Was that serious? I don't know. That was pretty funny. But I tell you what, I can get hit in the face and fall down backwards.
I also want to point out that this is said literally every single time these penalties happen. They always get the second guy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Always. Even if the first guy has 100 pounds on you, they're still going to get the second guy. With that
Speaking
note,
of having 100, never mind.
No, go ahead. No, No. Now I'm interested in what you were going to say.
Well, I was going to say, did you see the little fight between Bubba Wallace and Larson in the NASCAR race?
I heard about it, but I didn't actually see it.
So Bubba's a big dude, and Larson is not. And they got into a little altercation. Bubba basically wrecked him on purpose, and then afterwards got a little testy and pushed poor little Larson down. So yeah. Anyway,
they got to figure out some way to make NASCAR worth watching.
Well, I tell you what, if you go back to the old school, you watch some of those fights, those Kelly Yarbrough and his guys, they were mean. Shit. NASCAR was more fun then too.
Well, you know what? We'll have a NASCAR episode at some point this season where we can,
should. That'd be awesome.
Where we can debate if NASCAR is more or less fun than it used to be. Speaking of having no fun at all, it was another week, and it's time for another adventure in officiating.
Adventures in officiating.
I love that. So we're starting off with roughing the passer redux. They get number 56 on the Saints. Joe Burrow pulls out, gets the roughing on this play. This was a tight game that the Saints led until they didn't. But if you take a look at the slow motion there, the Saints player, that is chest to shoulder contact. So I don't know what the flag is. And then in this play right here, Mike Maharrey, tripping is a penalty in the National Football League. That one right there was not called. If that's not tripping, I don't know what tripping is.
Well, okay, let's the first one.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we used to call tackling.
Yes. Yeah,
and the second one definitely tripping. By definition, when you stick your leg out, that's tripping.
That's as clean as a hit can be by any metric of football up to this season. Apparently, we griped in the last week that supposedly they're going to look at roughing the passer in the offseason because we've had several controversial ones already this year. But on that one, what was interesting about the replay is if you see when Joe Burrow still has the football in his hand, but his hand is up to his helmet because he's getting ready to launch it. That's when the defender has already committed to the tackle. How is he supposed to stop from hitting Joe Burrow at that point?
There's this thing called physics that makes it absolutely impossible. People get that. I think because we see it on TV, we don't realize how fast these guys are going.
Yes.
You don't stop that type of forward momentum just on a dime.
Yes. You don't stop that fast, and these aren't toddlers. These are guys who are 200, 250, 300, 350 pounds running. Exactly. And by the way, those really slow guys that are 350 pounds are running faster than you can. Just for the folks at home that they're thinking, I can do that. No.
No, you can't. You may be able to punt the ball 4 yards, but you cannot outrun a NFL defensive lineman.
Correct.
Well, you know what it's time for?
What's that?
It is time for a puck to the head. So this week I have to shoot the puck at my beloved Tampa Bay Lightning.
Oh, no.
The organization in general for suspending a player based on one anonymous tweet. So the tweet accused defenseman Ian Cole of grooming and sexually abusing a minor. The person who identified herself as Emily Smith said she initially met Cole, who is now 33 years old, while she was in high school, and she claimed that they had a relationship that lasted for 4 years. Now, mind you, it's a pretty nasty accusation, right?
Sure, yeah.
And I'm not going to deny that such accusations should be taken seriously. But don't you have to consider the source? And in this case, the source was sketchy, to say the least. The allegations actually came from a Twitter account that was obviously created just to make the accusation. Not any other tweet, no record of this Twitter account existing before. So somebody creates this account and posts this. They basically did it as a graphic. So they post this big, long accusation. Now think about it. Anybody can create an anonymous social media account and say anything, right?
Sure.
Like some Florida Gator booster this week could create an account and claim the entire Georgia offensive line gang raped a girl the week before the Florida-Georgia game. I mean, heck, somebody could make up stuff about you and post it on Twitter, right?
Well, it wouldn't be the first
So,
time.
but seriously, I mean, obviously, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't investigate such an allegation because it is a serious allegation. We have to take it seriously. And the NHL did that. But I don't think a person should be subject to suspension until there's some kind of actual concrete evidence. That's
Sure.
how I look at it. And incidentally, the investigation turned up nada, nothing, zilch. The NHL said it performed a detailed review of online and social media public data, court records, as well as law enforcement checks, plus interview with Cole and other individuals with potentially relevant information. Now, it's interesting if you saw the accusation itself. She talks about how she was mortified that Cole had talked to other teammates about what he had done to her and bragged about it. So there's verifiable information that was in this tweet that nobody was ever apparently able to verify after an investigation. So in other words, the allegations were verifiable. They weren't verified. And yet he ended up missing the first 3 games of the season because the Lightning suspended him. They did suspend him with pay, granted, but still. I agree with the players union, the NHLPA, or I should say they agree with me. This is what they said. Players should never be subject to suspension or discipline in response to unsubstantiated and anonymous accusations. Removing a player from his team under these circumstances is inappropriate and grossly unfair. And I completely agree with that. And that's why the Lightning as an organization gets a puck to the head.
These situations are always so interesting because to me, the only reason why a team would rush to judgment the way they do, and we see this in the NFL as well, where sometimes players will face NFL sanction even if they don't face any actual legal sanction from any alleged incident settling out of court, whatever that may be. To me, it seems like they rush to judgment because they're worried of what the PR backlash would be if they're found to have acted too slow in response to anything. But to me, acting prior to any type of arrest or detaining being made is not acting too slow. Now, if the player is arrested, they're probably not going to be showing up to practice anyway, right? If they have a pending court date, they're probably not going to be spending a lot of time on the ice in that particular instance. But if they don't, then it would be no different than you or me. I mean, we would go on with our lives, right? We'd go to work, we'd live our lives. The world doesn't stop turning for you or I or anyone else. And while it is true that he was suspended for pay, it could have been that much worse. Imagine if this guy's long-term livelihood were threatened. I mean, he has bills to pay, just like you and I have bills to pay. If nothing came of it, I would absolutely be suing the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'd be suing the NHL. I'd be suing everyone. Yeah,
you're right. It's all about optics. And living in a world where, we have to take every allegation seriously. And I don't completely disagree with that. But on the other hand, there has to be a line somewhere because, again, anybody can say anything about anybody. Anybody can throw an accusation out there. I could say, Alan Mosley beat me up and took my lunch money when I was in high school, or whatever. I just think there has to be some kind of balance, and there has to be some respect for a person that's been accused of something, because it is in the judicial system, we're innocent until proven guilty. In the NHL, apparently, or at least according to the Lightning, you're guilty until proven innocent. And I don't know. That just doesn't. I like the way that they the NHLPA put it. It's inappropriate and grossly unfair.
I just want to say now for everybody listening at home, it's metaphysically impossible for me to have done that to Mike Maharrey when he was in high school. Metaphysically impossible. I will see you in court. All right. Mike Maharrey, speaking of taking things seriously, I've got a yay or nay for you.
Okay.
Yay or nay? Do we give a damn about the whole state of Alabama?
Oh, hell no.
A one, two, three. We don't give a damn about the whole state of Alabama. Whole state of Alabama. Whole state of Alabama. We don't give a damn about the whole state of Alabama. We're from Tennessee.
That's right, Mike Meharry. It's time to finally talk about the inspiration for the thumbnail for today's episode. I know you're super pumped for a University of Tennessee episode. Yeah. But truly, the whole nation has come together rooting for whatever team is playing Alabama. And this week, it was the Tennessee Volunteers. Yeah. Mike, a lot of demons were exercised. A lot of demons have been exercised so far this season for the Vols, but definitely this weekend. Nobody beats the University of Tennessee 16 years in a row, not even the Nick Saban-led Alabama Crimson Tide. While some of those highlights are playing, I might have to stop myself to occasionally marvel at what we're seeing on screen.
Now, I want to say something here just before we get into this, because this is moderately painful for me, being a Kentucky boy. But I was pulling for Tennessee, and I want to make it known and remind the audience that I called this upset win by the Vols last week. Thank you.
You did. Now, I don't know if that was still just you being facetious and trying to use the Meharry curse. If you were trying to use the Meharry curse, then the Meharry curse is broken just as much as the Manning curse is broken. People have liked to point out that the Manning curse, UT has been a woefully losing team, particularly in games that Peyton Manning would go to. Now, to be fair, Tennessee hasn't been a great program the last 15 years, and Manning tends to show up to the big games. Well, big games are against high-ranked teams, and they're not good. Naturally, they lose those games. But the Manning curse is broken. He was there smoking a cigar after this one. Taking a look at the first score here by Tennessee in the game. How about this for some random stat lines from this weekend? So this was the first time this season, I'll try to do these chronologically with the video. This is the first time this season that Alabama gave up a touchdown on their opponent's first opening drive. By the way, they wouldn't just score on their opening drive. UT scored on their first 3 drives. Yep. So, yikes for the Alabama's defense. Tennessee has scored 50-plus points 3 times so far this season, Mike Meharry. The first time against Ball State, and then Akron, and then Alabama.
Ooh.
Yeah. So for all the sad sack Alabama fans out there pointing out all the excuses why they lost, they didn't just lose. They gave up 52 points. Even if Alabama had somehow come back and won that game, I don't think Nick Saban would have been particularly thrilled with his DBs giving up 52 points, no matter what the score was. This was the most points given up by Alabama since 1907.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
115 years. This is their worst beatdown. So take that on defense. By the way, you can see it right here on the replay. This was the lone punt of the game by Tennessee. And then what happens? Alabama immediately turns the ball over.
So the refs made him drop the ball? Is that what I'm understanding?
The refs made him dive for a live ball that he didn't have to touch, that it could have just been called dead. Absolutely. How about that for punting? The Vols have played 3 SEC games, all of them against ranked opponents, and they have punted a total of 3 times. Not 3 times per game, 3 times, period, with the third of those 3 punts actually just immediately being recovered by Tennessee. How's this for Alabama? Because they came into this game as the number 3 team in the country. Mm-hmm. The AP top 3 teams are a combined 476-1 when scoring at least 49 points. That one loss, Alabama, this weekend. I don't you feel bad for them?
No.
I know you don't.
Because we've already established nobody gives a damn about the state of Alabama.
Yeah, this is very true. How's this for Tennessee? Tennessee has started the season 6-0 with 4 ranked wins. That's most in the country, by the way. And having scored 30-plus points in all 6 games. You want to know the last time that was done?
When was the last time that done?
Never. Only the 2022 Tennessee Volunteers have that distinguishing characteristic. You want to see here as we're getting roughly to the halfway point, the halftime section of the video. You've probably noticed a few of the scrums that have taken place. A scrum being more popular in rugby for those that don't know. When the ball carrier kind of gets stood up and all the players come rushing in to push him forward or backward. Tennessee pushed the scrum forward every single time. Now that's not what you would expect from an Look, let's just face reality here. Look, I'm happy that Tennessee won, but I'm not going to pretend that UT magically had a bunch of 5-star players on their team and they were just pretending to be 3 stars the last 4 years, right? This is a team with predominantly 3, some 4 stars, and a lot of transfers after the complete emptying out of the program in the Pruitt era. And yet those players pushed 5-star Alabama offensive and defensive lines around for 60 minutes.
They really did.
The referees weren't helping push those lines, Mike Maharrey.
No, indeed. And that's one of the things that I found notable as I was watching the game is that, you know, the storied battle of the trenches. Tennessee won the battle in the trenches consistently through the game. And you know, early in the game, that's something that really kind of surprised me.
Oh, did the refs make did the refs make Jalen Hyatt outrun the secondary?
Well,
here?
I see a ref in the screen, so yes. I think this right here is one of those scrums. No, not yet. That's just him running through the big hole in the offensive line.
Yeah. Did the refs sack Bryce Young right there? Yeah, I don't know. Here's another interesting little tidbit. You brought up controlling the trenches. Would you have believed me at the start of the season if I told you that Tennessee was going to outrush Alabama by 80 yards in their matchup?
No, absolutely not.
Alabama. Now they did have some solid runs and some catches out of the backfield, but the reality is they only barely ran for over 100 yards. Tennessee tallied 181 yards on the ground to go along with all these highlight reel catches and throws between Hooker and Hyatt. So Tennessee absolutely controlled the line of scrimmage. I did make the point of, look, I think Bryce Young's an amazing quarterback. I really do. And he's going to get drafted near the top, and he deserves it. He won the Heisman last year. He deserved that too. But the reality of it is, and we're seeing the end of the game right here, boy, you want to talk about playing soft, as Saban quoted of his own defense. They let Tennessee drive to field goal range in 13 seconds to have 2 seconds remaining on the clock to kick the game winner. By the way, that game winner, they did get a finger on it, but it had enough to go through a fingertip and make it just over the crossbar. And you're going to see, as the Vols like to say around here, the pandemonium is about to reign. I love that shot, by the way. Look at that.
That's cool.
It's been a minute since you had a full 101,000 people in Neyland Stadium. Here's another interesting tidbit. Did you know that the nearest by, it was in the Cumberland Library, the nearest by seismograph actually detected seismic activity?
Oh, really?
Yes.
We've talked about before the fact that there really arguably isn't a better college football environment than Knoxville, Tennessee. Yeah. Love them or hate them.
Well, because there's certain things that you just have that you can't deny, like having the Tennessee River and the Vol Navy right there on the back of the stadium. Right. Having a stadium that seats over 100,000 people. I've said before, it's really weird to go to a game in Knoxville where you look around and say, "This is what 100,000 people looks like," because it's hard to know that. Like when I'm in a crowd, I think a crowd is big. Well, that's not a crowd. That's 100,000 people.
And then, you know, I think about like going to a Lightning game. It's 20,000 people. Mm-hmm. That seems like a big crowd. And that's just, you know, what, a fifth of what they pack into Neyland.
Our friends Dave and Mary were marveling at how loud and rambunctious the Chiefs fans were at Arrowhead last week when they played the Buffalo Bills. And I said, you're completely right, and Arrowhead is legendary. Now add another 50% of the crowd, that's Neyland Stadium.
Yeah.
Here's the last one. Hendon Hooker has now been catapulted to the Vegas favorite to win the Heisman Trophy.
Oh, wow.
As well as Jalen Hyatt, who came into the season having only started 2 games before this year. He's now on the AP midseason all-team, and in that game, he had 5 touchdowns on 6 catches against Alabama.
That's not bad.
It's not bad. I part of me is like, oh, don't play too good because these guys are gonna all go to the NFL draft as opposed to coming back next season. Jalen Hyatt's still a young guy, but you know what? Hats off to him. That's a guy who nobody knew his name at the start of this season, and now they're saying, well, if he decides to leave early, second, third round,
yeah,
he literally played himself into millions of dollars.
You know what? More power to him.
On that note, guys, we're going to be back with more Sports Ball right after this commercial break. Don't go away.
From 40, it wasn't pretty, but it was beautiful. And Chase McGrath will never have to buy another meal in Knoxville.
If you're enjoying this afternoon's episode of Sports Ball, consider supporting the program by joining our Patreon over at patreon.com/Alan Mosley. Tune in to It's Too Late with Alan Mosley, Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern Time on your favorite video platform of choice. Just search Alan Mosley TV.
Well, if you don't like college football and you watch this one, I'm not sure what your problem is. 52-49, Tennessee remains unbeaten.
It wasn't pretty, but it was beautiful.
And he'll never have to buy another meal in Knoxville again.
Yeah.
Woo! So Alan, you're pretty happy about this, eh?
I could take it or leave it.
Kind of puts a little bit of a lighter step in your, or what am I trying to say? Makes your feet feel a little lighter. It's a little air in your step.
It's so interesting going around town right now here in Tennessee and just feeling that everyone's in a better mood. Seeing people smiling. I went out to eat on, Tuesday, and sitting in the restaurant, you could hear people at 4, 5, 6, 7 other tables in the restaurant all talking about the game.
Yeah.
And days later.
I'm sure that there are people talking about that football game that probably are marginal football fans. It's more about the fact that I don't know. This is one of the things that, you get the sports ball. It's just a waste of time.
The sports ball game.
Exactly. And there is, I don't know how to put this really, but I think there's value in sports in terms of what it does for community. Because I remember the same thing when the Lightning won the Stanley Cup. It brings the community together. It's like it gives people something to be excited and happy about that is within the community that so often is divided. Anytime there's politics, we're divided, and the pressing issues of the day, we're divided. But when something like this happens in a state like Tennessee, it's good for the community, and I like that. That's one of the things that I like about sports. I like the way it brings people together. I like the way that it passes down from father to son. And I personally know people that have had really kind of crappy relationships with their dad that were able to have those relationships healed through their love of the same sports team. I just think it's a good thing, and I think we see that in the way that the people responded to this big win in Tennessee.
Well, the word I like to use is camaraderie. That's
a good word.
It establishes a camaraderie with a group, a population, a community, where it's particularly in that time, the politically divided times we live in. I'll give you a perfect example. I had the restaurant analogy. I was also out doing some grocery shopping, and I'm waiting in line at Kroger's, and the line is 4, 5, 6 people deep at this point because I went at the worst time of day. And in that line, you had a scrawny little white boy. You had a elderly Hispanic gentleman with a thick accent. And you had I'd say probably a middle-aged black man that was wearing a hoodie. And all three of them were laughing and smiling and talking about football.
Yeah.
And they don't, it just makes you wonder, like, there's politicians that wish that they could harness that energy, and they never, ever will.
They can't do it. I remember, it wasn't even that long ago. I was up in Boston for an event that I was speaking at, and was wearing a Lightning pullover, and I'm sitting in, I think, Dunkin' Donuts, and dude walks in, he goes, "Hey, go Lightning." And we ended up having like this 15-minute conversation about, started with the Lightning, and then we got to, he happened to be from the Tampa Bay area, so we started talking about, places we knew in common. Just this random guy in Dunkin' Donuts that we came together simply because I was wearing the colors of the team. And, I think there's a little bit in human nature of tribalism. I
Sure.
think it's evolutionary. We're made to bind together in groups for protection, for to hunt, to do all of the things that human beings had to do in order to just survive, thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And sports is a positive way to channel that. Obviously you have some of the stupid stuff you get, some of like the hooligans with the soccer and occasional fights in the stands, but by and large, it's a thing that taps into that tribalism in a way that's positive, as opposed to, let's go bomb our neighbor. And I think human beings need that outlet, and it needs to be in a positive, non-destructive way. If the amount of destruction is tearing down some goalposts and throwing them in the river, I think that's a pretty good trade-off.
Yeah, and also, by the way, I'll say this one last thing, because then we're gonna have to put our solemn faces on. I hate even to do the next segment, because I feel so light and spirited right now. You did see some of that. You did see some of the people on social media saying they're tearing down the goalposts and throwing them in the river. They're a bunch of rednecks. Right. That's stupid. That's destruction of property.
Well, they are a bunch.
They don't.
Of Tennessee.
Yeah, that's true. They don't belong on the field. I couldn't imagine myself ever being involved in that. And my only response is that, what's it like to be so joyless?
Right?
Like, let people have something that they enjoy and can share it with each other.
Yeah.
God forbid.
Amen.
All right. On that note, it's time for our solemn faces. In memoriam, we'll remember a player, a team, a coach, whoever, whose sporting life was cut tragically short. Mike, who are you remembering this week?
Well, Alan, today I'm going to remember all of the 100-win baseball teams in the National League. That would be the
Yikes.
New York Mets, the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Atlanta Braves. They were big winners this year until they weren't.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All three of those teams were eliminated in early playoff rounds, leaving us with two wildcard teams, the 87-win Phillies and the 89-win Padres, slug it out for the National League Championship. So may the big winners rest in peace.
I'm remembering Jermaine Burton. Oh no, the wide receiver of the Alabama Crimson Tide. It's bad enough that he only had 2 catches in last week's game. But then he decided to air out his grievances by cold clocking a female fan running onto the field as he was exiting. You can see a little bit of the footage right there. She's fine, but he's not. He's in trouble. It's being investigated as we speak. You might want to have shown a little bit of that fight 30 minutes before then, buddy. But
right?
and I know that, it's not wrong. It's wrong to hit anybody. He shouldn't have struck anyone coming onto the field, whether they belonged on the field or not. But everybody knows it's worse when you punch a girl, and punch a girl is what he did, a college girl at that. Mike, we're moving on to the picks. We're going to start with college football this week. Number 9 and undefeated UCLA Bruins are actually +6 underdogs at the number 10 Oregon Ducks. Mike, the disrespect to UCLA to be 6-point underdogs in this game, despite being undefeated with back-to-back fantastic W's.
Yeah, and I'm not sold on the Ducks. I'm going to take the Bruins in this game. I think the Bruins are kind of the up-and-comers in the Pac-12.
Yeah, the Oregon has done a fantastic job of coming back from that game 1 disaster when they played Georgia at the start of the season.
Right. And that's my impression. That's the impression I have of the Ducks.
Yeah. But I'm going to go with UCLA as well. This is not a fake 6-0 team. If UCLA wins this game, they're in the driver's seat to win the Pac-12. So how about that? Yeah. We're moving on. The number 20 Texas Longhorns, who are 6.5-point favorites at, you heard that right. They're 6.5-point favorites at the number 11 Oklahoma State Cowboys. Now, Texas is coming off of two big wins, an absolute throttling over their rival Oklahoma in the Red River Shootout. but 6.5-point favorites at the number 11 ranked team.
Yeah, and I think Oklahoma State looks pretty solid. Watched a little bit of them last week. I'm going to go with the Cowboys, and that's a big number too. At home, that seems like give me some money.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Oklahoma State as well. By the way, for as big of a win as the Oklahoma game was, and Oklahoma has rebounded since then, Texas also had a one-score win over Iowa State that they're coming off of, and Iowa State is kind of meh. Oklahoma State's not meh. So we'll see how that goes. And then finally, the number 17 Kansas State Wildcats, 5-1. They're 3.5-point dogs. Going again on the road to play the undefeated number 8 TCU Horned Frogs. Now, both of these teams have big wins over Oklahoma, so that's kind of an ongoing trend in the Big 12 this year. But TCU's undefeated at home, but they're only 3.5-point favorites over Kansas State. Kansas State's lone loss was to Tulane.
Yeah, there's a little part of me in my gut that wants to take Kansas State. I kind of like the storyline there, but I'm gonna go with the Horned Frogs. I think they're more legit, and to be they're on the road. I mean, at home, I'm going with the Horned Frogs.
I'm going with TCU as well. I doubted them earlier in the season. I felt like their young quarterback was having beginner's luck, but he didn't have the athleticism to take them all the way. I was proven wrong. Immediately after I said that, he had a game where he had like 100 yards rushing to go along with his 400 yards passing. So I'm an idiot. I'm going with TCU. We're moving on to the NFL. This is Thursday night action this very evening. The New Orleans Saints. This is a matchup of 2-4 teams, by the way. The New Orleans Saints are really beat up. Lots of injuries, including both their number 1 and number 2 quarterbacks are both dinged up. As of this moment, I think that they're leaning towards Andy Dalton's going to get the start. Dinged up, but getting the start over Jameis, who probably won't be back until next week. They're going on the road as 2.5-point underdogs to play the Arizona Cardinals, who are also 2-4. Some really ugly losses. Kyler Murray kind of looks out of sorts this season, and we even mentioned Cliff Kingsbury as one of our coaches on the hot seat.
Yeah.
One boon for the Cardinals before your pick. DeAndre Hopkins, all-star wide receiver who's been out the first 6 games of the year, returns tonight.
I'm going to take the Cardinals. All year I've been waiting for the Cardinals to be what I expected the Cardinals to be at the beginning of the year, and I haven't seen it yet. But I think with Hopkins back, I think I'm going to take the Cardinals, and also because Andy Dalton, New Orleans is a mess. That whole organization seems to be floundering right now. So yeah, going with the Cards.
I'm actually going to go with the Saints plus the 2.5 here, and I'll tell you why. I think DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best receivers in the NFL, but the Cardinals, believe it or not, are on a 9-game home losing streak. There's something about playing in their own home that they can't win games, and that was going back into a season when they were still a playoff team. They can't win at home for some reason. So I'm actually going to go with the Saints on that. Moving on to the NHL, the Washington Capitals are taking on the Ottawa Senators. Vegas has the Capitals as plus 110, Ottawa, the home team, minus 110. I think that's probably pretty typical for a home and away against even opponents.
Yeah.
It's still early in the season. Neither of these teams really have gotten off to a rip-roaring start, Mahari. What do you think?
Yeah, I said that the Senators were going to be better this year. We haven't seen that really yet. Got one win. But playing at home, I'm not real big on the Caps right now either, and I think the Senators are going to start to slowly put it together as they integrate these new parts. So I'm going to go with the Senators in this game. This
is a tough one because I agree with your assessment that you expect the Senators to be better. It's still super early, right? But you also kind of expect Ovechkin to do Ovechkin things.
Sure.
I think that's why Vegas basically has it as a pick'em. I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going to say the Senators. And finally, how about this? Best time of year. All the major sport leagues are in action, including the NBA, which just kicked off. We have the LA Clippers, who are going to be playing. This is their opening night. They haven't played a game yet. It's hard to say they're going on the road because it's LA versus LA, but they're playing the Los Angeles Lakers, who are 0-1, coming off of an absolute thrashing against the Golden State Warriors. Now, a lot of people get thrashed by the Golden State Warriors, but I'll give you this one tidbit for your pick. The Lakers, after only one game, have 5 players on the injury report. 3 guaranteed out, 2 are game time decisions.
That seems less than ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Given that, I'm going to take the Clippers. Opening night win for the other LA team.
Yeah, I really want to take... The Clippers are actually coming in as 5.5-point favorites. I tell you what, I'm going to go with the Clippers as well. LeBron was listed as day-to-day with 3 other players out and another day-to-day. I'm going to expect he plays, and I'm going to expect it doesn't matter. I think the Lakers are on their way out as a contender, and the LeBron James era is going to be coming to an end very soon.
Well, word on the street is LeBron is trying to get the AT&T girl's job. So,
yeah, he is coming for her job. We all love Lily around here. Mike Maharrey,
of course
do you have a final thought?
No, I still hate the electronic boards in the hockey games. It's driving me crazy. But other than that, not really.
I'm going to end. My final thought today is Brad Nessler is a decent commentator. Everyone hates Gary Danielson. Gary Danielson is an absolute pariah in college football.
Yes,
and so
awful.
From what I understand, the SEC deal with CBS is coming to an end soon. Not that they won't necessarily renegotiate it, but word on the street is that it's going to end up going to a new partner, which this might be the end of Gary Danielson calling afternoon SEC games. Us SEC fans have had to listen to Gary Danielson for like 20 years, and quite frankly, we're a little bit fed up with it. With that said, hats off to Gary Nessler for having, in what, in my opinion, I know I'm a homer, that UT-Alabama game is going to be game of the year. That was an amazing, amazing college football game, and Gary Nessler with the absolute amazing call. It wasn't pretty, but it was beautiful.
Yeah, that was a good call.
Guys, thank you so much for watching another episode of Sports Ball, and we will see you next week.
You have been listening to Sports Ball with Mike Maharrey and Alan Mosley. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Odyssey, all at Alan Mosley TV. You can also subscribe to the show on your favorite podcasting platforms. Just search for Sports Ball with Mike and Alan. And you can find the weekly Sunken Cost Money Pit at Substack. Thanks for listening. We'll have more bread and circuses next week.